Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Good morning, and good morning. It's Senabella. I'm here with you, Coffee Break Live. And you know, it's always my honor and my privilege to be here with you today to say anything. And so this morning, the anything is, of course, good morning. How are you doing? Got a little surprise for you today. I got a little surprise for you. I was gifted this cute little tiny cup set. Right? Cute as it can be. And in my desire to reduce my intake of coffee, tea, juice, you know, ginger ale is my new addiction. It is, truly it is. I'm starting to take from this little tiny cup and reduce it little by little. So take a sip with me. Good morning. Good morning. I am so happy to be here. I am excited to not only continue to have this wonderful relationship that we formed here at Coffee Break Live together, but also to just have the opportunity to speak to so many dynamic people, to have these conversations and to share their journeys here with you, and for us all to partake in this feast of understanding and knowing each other better. In doing that, I want to talk a little bit about my mom as I open up this morning, because she used to tell me all the time, Senabella, all great minds run together. And I'm like, what does that mean, Mom? All great minds run together? How do great minds run together? Well, later on in life, I began to understand that, but it was like much later. I didn't get that until I was somewhere in my 30s. And I began to realize that through all the travel and all of the people that I met, there were a lot of things that were similar that I was encountering. But they were also people who were, I would say, more powerful in their work, more balanced and more directed towards what their goals were. And so in order for me to be in the line of people who are great thinkers, I had to become one. You have to be mentored. You have to be shaped. You have to be positioned. You have to become something because other people help to mold you to become who you are. And so I give homage to my mother this morning because as a great woman, she made sure she amplified the messages that I needed to become who I am. And I had a great father who was a very kind, a very sweet, loving, and charming guy. And he cried easily. And those things helped to make me a better person emotionally too, to have a father that you could see who was soft and gentle and at the same time who was strong. And one of the things that I really enjoy about being here on the Female Solution is that Naima Latif has put together a host of really wonderful, talented people who provide showcases in these podcasts that feature so many dynamic messages, and they are male and female hosts. Now we have a very healthy team of female hosts, but we're now also gathering a healthy team of male hosts. And so throughout this here podcast today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of their promotions so that you can tune in to their shows too, because we want to make sure everybody's getting in at the right time together. Now, I'm not going to keep going on because it's time for me to talk a little bit more about who we will come into contact with today. And I want to say, and I told her I'm going to be a little chatty about it before we bring her in, but this sister walked into a room that I was invited to come and be a part of. And in fact, it was one of the guests we had here at our show. His name is Doctor. He's an executive chef, and his name is Jimmy Carter. And that night he received his doctoral. And so he became Doctor. Wait a minute, no, he's pastor. No, he's the executive chef. No, he's Jimmy Carter. So we had this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Shepherd's Table event. It was just absolutely dynamic. And I'm just walking around the room and I'm just a servant. So I can't go anywhere and not try to be a part of everything else. Like if I'm going to be there singing, I know I have to be a certain way when I hit the stage. But if I've got some space, I'm going to pick up a plate. I'm going to do whatever. This sister walks into the room and I immediately look over to my right. And I'm like, what? And it was just her aura. And then it was her stature. And I don't know, maybe it was the way she took her coat off and she threw it on the back of her chair. And she was so elegant, not just in stature, but in everything she had on and her whole persona. And she started looking around and she smiled a little bit and gave herself a moment. And then she started working the room better than me. And I'm like, what the crap? Who is she? Who's going to come in this room and out nice me? Outdo me? Who's going to be that much more present? Well, honey, baby, child, Miss Phyllis L. Rodgers did just that. And I watched her with my eyes the rest of the evening. And we eventually ended up, well, I'm going to talk more about her when she's present. So, but before I bring her in, and I'm about to, allow me to just say just a little bit about her, because her name is Phyllis L. Rodgers. And she's the founder and the CEO of Peer Plus Education and Training Advocates. It's a registered 501c3 here in Illinois. And since its inception in 2002, she's engaged 4,500 participants through community events. Now, it takes a whole lot to do stuff. And I'm not even going to tell you the number she told me, because I'm going to let her tell you when she's on screen about how many events she does in a year, and put my little 3-4 events into shame. And I said to myself, oh, okay, I'm running with the big dogs. I'm not even running with the big dogs. I'm trying to chase them when you're in the room with this kind of sister. But it wasn't that just the work. She's just a dynamic sister. And so I'm going to bring to the stage, into the room, the dynamic and wonderful sister, the soul sister of the day, Phyllis Rodgers.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. And got your Peer Plus advocates, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, there you go. I wanted that to be seen. Yes, there you go.
Yes, yes. Well, we can see it, but seeing you is even more important. But you are that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I almost feel like I thought I knew where I wanted to start, and I think I do. So I want to slow it down just a little bit, because I'm probably so excited. I want to talk about everything, but I want to give you a chance to kind of like just open up and talk about just you, because in being you, I've come to know that you've been married for what, 40 something years to your sweetheart? Is that true?
The number's a little higher.
A little high? Okay. All right.
Yes.
48 years is
okay. I'll take that one.
I think it's awesome. You know, I got married at 16, so I could have gave any number. I don't know what.
I got you.
I'm not married anymore, but by now it would have been at least about 50 years, just to be honest. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. It's just such a blessing, though.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, but you know, it works itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say that that means you've had a partner, someone to bounce things off, somebody to go through the ups and the downs, the loves and the loss, the gains, the insight. And, you know, whenever you have a battle, that's someone in the battle with you, right? Yes. And so I guess that when we think of the people that we have in our lives, we're successful with those people, not as a result of being just ourselves. And a big part of who they are a part of who we are. Would you say that's true?
I think that is very true. You have to be able to, you know, it takes a while when they say you will become as one. I don't say that is always true, that you're going to become one, but you look at each other in a different way, in a different type of respect. Mm-hmm. And with the understanding, especially if it's a long-term marriage. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when you got into it, were you like giddy in love, young girl kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hugs and kisses, and the world was perfect.
Uh-huh. And do you find yourself still in the hugs and kisses and the world is perfect?
It's a different kind of world. It's a different type of hug. Mm-hmm. It's a different type of hug that you want comfort. Mm-hmm. You're looking for assurance. Mm-hmm. You want to know that it's going to be okay.
Yes. not just for you, but for your partner as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You wanted to know that it's going to be okay at the end of the day or whatever is going on. That you know what, it's okay. We've made it this far. And it's,
Mhm.
you know, it's a journey.
So in that, I hear that there's a lot of caring going on. And the reason I'm speaking of it is because everything that we are a part of every day becomes a part of what we do. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
Right. And
absolutely.
it's a
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly. Yes.
it's a language that you speak when you leave your home or you go into spaces with other people that becomes the part of the engagement. How you feel,
Yes.
what you feel, and how you want to care about people. You want me to give you a chance to grab? Are you going to be okay with your camera? Now that's
Uh-huh.
good.
Yeah,
There.
the computer, the laptop is finally booting the way that I wanted to, but I'll stay here though. I'm
Hmm.
good.
Good, good, good. Well, it's a beautiful thing to think about who we are as we grow, to have that bow, that bow tie, right? To have
Yes.
everything centered and focused and to continue to move on. But you've also had some challenges, obviously, in your life, and as well, I'm certain even in your husband's life that you've had to confront. But how did you get to where you are now? Like, what was the thought earlier on of what you would do and your wishes and your dreams and or desires that got you to where you are now, that brought you there?
Well, you know, it takes a while to have that confidence that you want and that you desire and that we all deserve. To be confident in who we are and in our relationships and what we do and how we provide it. It doesn't happen it doesn't happen overnight. It is a day by day, and the choices that you decide to make. Where is you want to be able to come out on the other side. You want to be able to breathe.
Mhm, mhm.
And if we go back to years ago when I had received a diagnosis, after treatment, I had to figure out how the rest of my life was going to be for as long as I'm here.
What was the
And with
diagnosis?
that, I had to make a lot of different changes in my life that started with how I worked, who I worked with, who I gave my time to, and how I developed my own narrative of how I'm going to get through this life.
Mhm. So, did you say what the diagnosis is, or you just don't want to say?
Oh no, I can't. Yes, I'm sorry. I was diagnosed with a colon cancer.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
And you overcame that.
And you know what? Every day is remission.
My mother had
Every
COVID.
your
My mother,
mom. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes,
well,
every day is remission.
but you can say that. But I remember coming into the house, and my mother was lying in the bed, which was unusual. My mother didn't linger. My mother was always busy. And so I remember coming into the house and she was in her room. And I said, well, when is she coming out of her room? And she didn't come out. So I went to the room and I knocked, my mother had us accustomed to all the things that she wanted us to become and how we would behave with her. So I slightly, nicely rapped on her door, Mom, are you okay? And she went, and I'm like, And Mom, and she's like, And so I peek in. I said, are you okay? And around her bed, she had gallons of water and grapes. And I'm like, have you eaten today? She says, oh, darling, this is all I'm going to eat. I said, Mom, what do you mean? Is this all you're going to eat? This is all you're going to eat? And she says, "Hmm." Well, I later found out she had been diagnosed with colon cancer. And she went to
Wow.
Dr. Elvina Fulton, who prescribed the grape diet. And she drank water, this special water. I forgot which it was. I'm not sure if it was electrolytes or whatever. And she ate these grapes and she did it for 2 weeks. It cleansed her out. She went back to the doctor. She was fine. Never saw anything like that. And she was back upon,
Wow.
huh?
I said that's amazing.
Yes. Well, Dr. Elvina Fulton was famous for healing people with natural, everyday cures, things that she knew that we'd forgotten, our forgotten history of how to
Mhm.
care for ourselves, And that's another thing about Dr. Carter is that, He's so funny. Every time I cough, he said, "Well, I want you to go in the kitchen." And, and I love those things because I think that it not only makes me think about all the stuff that I didn't know because I didn't grow up in the South, but it reminds me of my mother. We thought my mother was a witch doctor. It was like, we don't want to drink no golden seal tea. That was the worst tasting tea in the world.
Yeah, I remember that.
So you had to do that too?
Yes, we did. That was something that was tradition. If something was wrong, you got that tea or you got that cod liver oil or something else that would make your nose turn.
Absolutely. Cod liver oil, rock candy.
Yes, ma'am.
And Vicks Vapor Rub. She put it on the spoon and would make us take it and swallow down our throat with a piece of rock candy and some brandy after that. We just died. We hated getting in that line.
It was tradition in the fall, in the early fall of the year.
It might have
around
been
September.
It may have been. I don't know. I just remember I was like number 5 in line out of the 14 kids in the house. And I kept going. the whiskey would, we would be like happy as go lucky. And she just tells us, go in the room. We go in the room, go to sleep. We were happy as we could be. There are a lot of natural cures. So you overcame your bout with cancer, and you looked at life in what way? What was the trajectory going forward after that for you?
Well, I had to, again, the decisions that I had to make in regards to if I was going to stay employed.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to stay employed, would I be able to continue in the position that I was in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in both of those cases, I was not. I was not, because recovery was really hard. With treatment, I did 8 of my 10 treatments, and they were horrible, but I made it through. I had a good family that was there with me, and good friends that helped me along. And so I would say I had my team around me that said, look, we're going to do this. They never talked as if it was just me. It was always, we're going to do this, and we did. Mm-hmm. So I had a team that would go with me to my treatments. They would switch off. They created their own flow charts for who was going to do what and when and how, and the rest time and the going to the clinic. And that created a level of comfort for me. And then I had to make the decision how I was going to continue with my employer at that time. And unfortunately, I was not able to.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a director of volunteer service and community relations at a center on the west side of Chicago, working in HIV.
Now you said HIV.
Yes.
My work with HIV was with my brother in Africa.
Okay.
And I wasn't there, but he was. But I wrote a song called Celebrate Life for an event.
Oh, wow.
Right. I'll share that with you later. But I should have brought it to the show. But my brother, he had decided to hit the ground in Africa, and he went to every country, and he was trying to help them to come together to recognize and celebrate their negative status as of the test by getting them tested.
Yes.
Yes. So he worked with the St. Louis University. I mean, he had GlaxoSmithKline, all of them.
Oh, wow.
All those organizations gave him what he needed to get on the ground.
Okay.
So he was getting people tested, and he calls me up one morning. He says, Senabella, I need you to write a song. I'm like, what for? And he says, and by this time now, I'm early at writing songs. I'm not like writing songs and getting them out to people. And he says, you're a great songwriter. Would you write this song? And I'm like, whatever. But anyway, long story short, I ended up writing the song for AIDS, and it's called Celebrate Life. And it was to help people to recognize and celebrate their negative status for AIDS. And then I went to Kenya, and that was it. I was like, oh my God, they were dying. A farmer who had a flower farm, a Afrikaner, he said to me on the plane as we flew into Nairobi that he had to hire 3 people to one job. They were dying so quickly. How much has that changed since then?
Well, my thought is now the numbers are going back up,
Mm-hmm.
and this may be a time for you to go back and remix that song
Mm-hmm.
and put it out there
Oh,
because
wow.
the numbers are increasing.
Is that because of what Kennedy has done? Or is it
I
just
wouldn't
part?
say Kennedy. I would say people have gotten comfortable. And if you notice, you don't hear anything about it anymore like we used to, years ago, where you
Mm-hmm.
would drive around and you would see information on billboards,
Mm-hmm.
about testing
Mm-hmm.
and where to go. You don't see that anymore. Some of the clinics that provided those services, some of the major clinics, they are in operation, but not in operation like they were in the past. And we have a younger group of people that really believe that they're invincible.
Oh, wow.
And we know that they've always felt like that, but it's more so now.
That immortality.
In mortality, absolutely, absolutely. So if you can go back and take a listen to that song and remix it, I think you may have yourself a hit.
I
You
will.
may have your yeah.
I'll certainly do that. I've written quite a few songs that are relative to, say, the messaging, as it were.
Yes.
And so on that particular event, my brother, he held it at Uhuru Park in Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh,
Kool and the,
wow.
Kool and the Gang was the featured group, and that
Oh,
song,
really? Oh, that
song
had to be amazing.
it was, and my song became the featured theme for the event called the Celebrate Life event at Uhuru Park. And I remember that evening when I went to bed, I couldn't sleep because I kept hearing noise outside. By the next day, 750,000 people had walked to Uhuru Park and converged upon it for the Celebrate Life Festival.
Oh, wow.
It was picked up by API, everything all over the world. People heard about it, and they asked my brother, "Did you know that you were going to get a lot of people?" He said, "Yeah, I did." They said, "But did you expect this amount?" He said, "I expected 1 million." He said,
Wow.
we need to save millions of lives, not just 250, 750, And so that's when AIDS became serious to me. It didn't affect me or anyone I knew in my family, but it did affect the work, then how I began to see the importance of messaging, the importance of what we do collectively from one place to another. Like how is it that I ended up over in Africa in something that was also affecting us so, like, without it, the thing that was happening here was just outrageous.
Yes.
And not that it wasn't outrageous there, because I remember seeing giant vultures on the street waiting for people to die to take their bones and, take their flesh and stuff. So it was quite a scene. AIDS is still an epidemic. And now that you're saying that it's an epidemic that is coming back up in numbers, I don't know. What are we going to do about that?
Well, this is the way that they look at it now. Because of the treatments and medication, they consider it almost in the family of a chronic disease that it can be managed. There are people that I know that have had a diagnosis for over 30 years. Ray Lewis Thornton is still around.
Wow.
Ray is still on the speaking circuit. I've seen her most recently on TikTok.
Okay.
She's doing very well. She's doing very well. But she was one of those when we worked together. She was compliant. And a part of that was being compliant in the lifestyles. And she was definitely one of those that was an advocate, for being compliant. And I would say, looking at how you're living and how you're going to manage the rest of your life. So I take that model from that and I applied that to myself with my cancer diagnosis. And that's how I manage myself and what it is that I do and how I do it. Like you said, the night that you and I met, it had been a little bit of a struggle. The Uber that I had ordered didn't come. I had to order two more, and I got there right in time. I took that coat off, slapped that coat down, and uh, took a drink of water, and it was time for me to come right, to the stage. So I'm definitely there to carry on whatever it is that I can do, when asked to do it. But it's how you're going to look at yourself. It's with anything though, and how you're going to manage your life and how you're going to control your own narrative, because we do have that control.
Mhm.
We do.
And then being a survivor of cancer and having other things happening in your life, that helped to give you information you needed to know how to structure your work around people.
Absolutely, absolutely. All of that is so very true. What I did is from the work that I had done in HIV, I just applied it to myself through oncology
Mhm.
and with the work that I do in the community. So we're still working with people, but you just have to change it and look at it in a different way of what that person is going to need and how to help navigate them to receive the services and resources through the system,
Mhm.
because the resources are there.
And so you were doing all that, but you also did something here I see in this short bio, is that you successfully managed a caseload of 300 ex-offenders from county jail and the general population. What was that work like? I mean, talk about.
That was in my very early days of when I started.
Mhm. Are you okay? We're freezing up a little bit. Let's see if we can give her a chance to come back in. Why don't we do this? I can go to a commercial real quick. We can take a break and come back and give Phyllis a chance to recap from where she took off. So let's do that. And I hope that you're enjoying and meeting Phyllis. She's a phenomenal sister, as I said earlier. And there's nothing but what you can learn here from her. Speaking of great people, let's check out Dr. Latif's.
When you see Black children misbehaving in public, being loud, disrespectful, and destructive, do you think to yourself, what they need is a good beating? That's what's wrong with these parents. They don't know how to discipline their children. Were you disciplined in that way? And did your parents also call you stupid, ignorant, and lazy? That's the way you break a slave. You terrorize them with constant fear of painful punishment. You teach them they're powerless to speak up, and you insult them so they feel like nothing. We were broken by parents who were broken, by parents who were broken. It's time to end the cycle of brokenness and bring healing to ourselves and our communities by using knowledge, respect, and love. We'll show you how. I'm Naima Latif. Get the book Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. On sale now. Go to www.naimalatif.com.
Well, we're going to go right back and keep going on and talking. But in the meantime, like I said, because Phyllis is having some problems with her camera, and we're going to let her have that opportunity to come back, I just want to talk about the importance of messaging and why I'm here. I have always been taught to become a servant, not a leader, a servant. But in order to be a leader, you have to be a servant. In order to be a guide, you have to be a servant. And many of the things that are happening on the ground today is that you find people are transforming from just being heads of companies and presidents of the United States, and or those who are conscious are beginning to become more servant leaders. They're adapting this phraseology because it's important. It's important for us to know that what we have to offer is probably the most important aspect of what we'll do in our lives, but we cannot give it if we don't come in providing a service. And that's what makes us a servant leader. And just like Phyllis talked about, as I did, coming into the room, taking off your coat, rolling up your sleeves, and going to work, even with a team around you. You know, you're always thinking about engagement. How do you amp up the engagement? How do you set aside whatever's happening with you personally and take whatever there is and spiritually put it into the room and then on the focus of people? So how are you doing today? And what are some of the things that you're concerned about in terms of, say, our servant leaders? Today, as Phyllis is here, one of the things that's really clear about her is that she is, in fact, a servant leader. Now, I didn't get a chance to and didn't take the moment to stop to read, but because she's not here, I want to just kind of go over some of the other things that she does. Because other than being a case manager and working with HIV and working with, as she said in her earlier career, she supported and she worked with people who were also ex-inmates in prison. I mean, think about that, how many different roads you travel and the kind of work that you'll do before you actually see the point of reference it was all meant and intended for. So now she's back. And
you know what? And that's what happens is when you try to control all the narrative, everything here, lights and everything went out for 2 seconds.
How beautiful is it? But here you are. We needed the time. You never know.
We are. Everything is back, but everything went out. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, I apologize. Please forgive me.
We live in a perfect world. This is a perfect moment.
Well, those are the things that I was talking about. I've learned how to do what I can do and control what I can. I couldn't control that. So something has been going on in the whole street. Everything in the house went out, TV set, everything, but I'm back. Thank you. I was talking about, I think, the piece when I was working with those that were ex-offenders.
Yes.
That was my first introduction into working in HIV. Everything that I needed to know about in working with that population, they trained me. It wasn't from a book because that came from corporate, but everything that I needed to know about working within that group of people and how to navigate and to understand why things were the way that they were in some of their lives, I learned from them. So it was, as they would say, I learned from those who had actually had the experience of being incarcerated. In the division that I was in, it was all males. I had some interaction with females, but my primary were men of color and some Latino men, but primarily men of color.
And what kind of work were you actually doing while you were in that space? What were you doing exactly?
I provided their case management. I linked them to services. I linked them to food, disability, to show them how to access the services to apply. Some of them went back to school to be able to live on their own, to make peace with their families, and to make peace with what was happening, in their lives. Because that was the early days of AZT, only one medication at that time. So a lot of those guys and ladies did not make it. They were not around for everything that's new now that's considered the cocktails. Yeah, that was that one medication. That was one that they had.
So this was all AIDS related?
Yes, ma'am. All
wow.
AIDS-related.
So yes. you were hands-on in the prison system.
No, I didn't go. They came to me after being released. They would come to the center where I worked. Yes.
Okay.
That's where they would come to receive their services once they had if they received a diagnosis while incarcerated. After being released, then they would come to the clinics. And I was on the west side of Chicago at now the Ruth M. Rothstein Core Center. So that's where they would come for their services. And I was a case manager at that time.
That's still powerful. That's very powerful. I think we don't in our heads, minds and probably even in our souls, think about the journey that people have to take when they are confronted with what we can see as this will kill you kind of, situations. And it's almost as though we kind of like not want to know. We don't want to always know. We don't always want to know because we think somehow it means that we then have to apply or do something about it. Have you found that to be a lot of what goes on in the community, because you seem to be steeped in the care of people and in making sure services are provided?
Absolutely. And that goes along with any diagnosis. You hear people say, well, I don't want to know. I got to die with something. And we will die, but you don't have to die with in such a hard way, maybe. Only God knows how that's going to happen for you. But you have a piece that you play in that of how you try to manage, what's been put in front of you. I'm the one that after I received my diagnosis, I said, no, I'm not going to do any treatment. I was adamant I was not going to do it. And my son and my daughter said, we'll take care of it. And they did.
Mm.
They did. The reason being is I saw my mother go through breast cancer. I saw her on her hands and knees, so ill. I can just see her right now, just crawling because she was so sick. But that was back in the 80s when, they didn't have, you had one chemo that pretty much everybody took the same. And it was horrible on the body, on the system, period. Not to be able.
Everyone took the same chemotherapy?
I'm sorry?
You said everyone took the same chemotherapy? The same kind?
Most of the chemos, they were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, they were all the same. And those dosages, they were high, and it was just horrible. I can just remember her just being so sick. She never said that she just wanted to die, but she was tired.
Mm.
She was tired because it took such a toll on her body.
I have a daughter.
For me, after my diagnosis, that's what I saw in my head. But see, things are much different now.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to receive my treatment every other week, but there was medication that they gave me so I would not be as ill. So what I saw my mother go through, I never went through that. Of course, it was a different type of cancer. But for me, cancer is cancer. That leads to what we're going to be doing on the 7th. We're celebrating all cancers.
Yes.
All cancers are going to be celebrated on the 7th of June. Because cancer is cancer at the end of the day, but they're treated very differently. Some of them can be treated, some of them can't. Some of them can just be managed. But
and it's all individualized, isn't it? Because management is different based upon each person.
Absolutely.
It's not like you have a spreadsheet and everybody can fit into a certain kind of column.
That is, yes, ma'am. So very true. So very true. Yes. My chemo had pure titanium in it. Yes.
Oh, wait, say that again.
My chemo it was mixed with titanium.
Now, I do say they mix a cocktail that's specific to each person.
Yes, that cocktail that was mixed for me, yes.
But that was why my daughter decided she didn't want to do chemotherapy. She said, so wait a minute, I'll never forget. Because she was in radiation therapy, and they said, we want to give you the chemo as the second part of this phase. She had brain cancer. Mm. And so she sat across from me and looked at me, and she rolled her eyes. She was a teenager. And when we got on the elevator to go down, she said, so you think I'm going to let them give me my own special poison to kill a poison that's killing me? And I said, Nasim, yeah, baby. She said, I ain't doing that. I said, you're not doing it? She said, no, I'm not doing that. She said, we're not making these appointments. I said, are you serious? She said, so she was so adamant about it. I remember the University of Chicago and University of Illinois were calling me, trying to get me to come in with her to do counseling to get her in this chemo. And she would not go. She said, I'm not going. And because she didn't go, that meant we had to take another road.
Yes.
So Minister Farrakhan found out my daughter was sick, and Maria Farrakhan, who was my dear friend, is my dear friend, called me up and said she met a woman who had 8 brain tumors
Oh my God.
and had put together a cocktail, if you will, of vitamin therapy, and that she and her father wanted to finance it because it was extremely expensive. And they sent a big box every month with all kinds of, you know, different kind of little tea water, uh, pills, all kind. Shark's cartilage at the time was pure, and it was like the pure cartilage of the shark. So Nassim took all that. She ended up, well, she's alive today. That's all I can say. But I think sometimes saying no might end up being a good answer, but I don't know. Everybody has to do what they feel guided to do. Nassim lived and she moved on, but that medulloblastoma, it affected her life still. She ended up, you know, they put a shunt in her head. They didn't close it off soon enough, and she ended up having the seedlings go in, and it sterilized her. She couldn't have children.
Wow.
I mean, so there are a lot of things that can happen around what's going on with you that has nothing to do with actual diagnosis. I mean, our families are at risk when we don't have good people to work with. And so you're one of those people. So do you find yourself in seminars, or do you all put together seminars for families, things that come together for families to help them to learn to communicate and all that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've hosted several, what I call my events or chat and choose, pretty much like yours when you do with coffee. But we would just say, let's just do a chat and chew, and we'll have one of the providers on from the Department of Oncology, and we just have a right out conversation. Let's talk about what's comfortable. Let's talk about what's uncomfortable. Let's get rid of the myths and talk about the truths. But at the end of the day, the decision has to be made for you. What it is that you want that's going to work best for you and your body. I have a good friend. He and I were diagnosed a couple of months apart. I went the chemo route. He went the other route, changed his diet, started to exercise, stopped smoking, stopped drinking. He's still here. He took another route. I can't say that his route was wrong, and he can't say that my route was wrong. We just did it differently, but we're both still here. And both of us, our passion is to make sure that we get this information out to the community. I don't know if you noticed it lately, but you hear so much now about colon cancer. There's a lot in the news, and a young man that passed away, 2 weeks ago, who wanted to see his parents before he passed on.
But I'm just trying to figure out, colon cancer, it changed in terms of the level of, say, how they viewed certain cancer sites, right?
Yes. Yes.
And how did colon cancer move up like that? I mean, how did that happen? Just like prostate cancer, just went from.
For me, I was a stage 3. So, and even though, and I often question that, even though I was doing my screenings properly, now they've changed the age now where you can start to get screened at 45. But I had my screening, and I encourage everyone to do your screenings. Please do your screenings, because that's a good way to let's nip it in the bud before it gets any further. But there's going to always be those little hiccups in there. But mine was a stage 3 with 19 lymph nodes, and which the result was I had a surgery. They removed a portion of my colon. And with those treatments and what I had to do, that gave me that time to think about how I was going to manage and continue to be on this earth until it's time for me to go. And so I made some clear-cut decisions again about employment and about people that were in my life that was toxic to me.
Mhm, mhm,
I had toxicity in my body. I didn't need that in my ear also.
mhm.
I needed something positive that was going to be coming. Now, when everybody has a story,
Yes.
your story, if whatever it works for you, it works for you. But I needed stories that was going to give me encouragement when my son and my daughter stepped in and told the provider, we'll take care of this. And they did. They both work in healthcare. I wasn't strong enough to do it myself. I needed someone else to be able to have a clear head. That's why we're called Peer Plus Education and Training Advocates. We advocate for you when you can't do it for yourself or your family member to get that information and those resources and give it back to the family, whatever the situation will be, so things will be a little bit easier for you. Resources are here. You just have to know how to navigate those systems to get those resources.
And I
They're
think
definitely here.
and I think that what becomes more empirically that you become resolved in this the notion that you understand you need support. You need support. Our families can support us so much, but that outside support which you
Yes.
provide is really just extremely important because sometimes we can't
Oh, it
share
is.
with our family members how we actually feel and we don't want to put on them because we feel like we'll make them move away from us by becoming so consumed in the caregiving if they're in fact doing that. There are a lot of people who don't have caregiving at home. So what you do and what you
That
provide is
is so very true.
you talked about when I first met you, the first night we sat in the car and talked for what about an hour or so before you went in. And you said, how many events do you do a year?
Well, let's go to this year. I did my report on Tuesday night. We've already been involved in 35 events since the first of the year.
Wow.
And my major event is going to be next month. So those are partnerships, and then we host our own events. So we've hosted
35 events.
22 of our own major events, and we've already been involved in 35 since the first of the year. We're
Wow.
working tomorrow. Last weekend it was 2 events in one day. So we do multiple events. My team is large enough that we could split off and go to different places. You'll get a chance to see my team when you come to the events
I'm definitely
for
coming
our
out.
National Cancer Survivors Day next month. You'll
And
see
that's
that big team of people that are all dedicated.
yeah. I imagine you have to have a pretty big team in order to get as much work as you're doing. Or should I say
Oh, absolutely.
or should I say a mighty team? It may not have to be large in number, but you may have a mighty team of 5 or whatever. Because you know what? When you start talking staff and numbers, it doesn't necessarily everybody's not working the same. Unless you just want
That
to
is
bring,
very true.
you
That
got
is
to be,
very, very true.
yeah, it takes a
That is
lot
very
to,
true.
yeah, when the number gets over 10, 15 people, you got to be on top of your game with a great staff in order to really make things, in my opinion, based on what my,
Absolutely.
so I
I
really
totally
applaud you for what you do because I think it's just dynamic. And again, the support systems, that's what we're talking about, the support systems, that's who you are. And it says here that you are ambassador with the Washington-based PCOR, Patient-Centered Research Outcome Institute, right?
yes,
Patient
yes,
Bridge with the University of Illinois Cancer Center, right? You like the U.S.
yes.
Food and Drug Administration. You work with them. You're working with all of the entities that are part of making sure that patients have not only counseling but are eating well, living well, mentally well. All of those. What are some of the things that you think that you do in your line of work that has been most successful?
That makes it most successful. Um, I think what we do is we meet people where they are. We don't talk above you, below you. We talk with you. We let you gauge the conversation, and then we're there to make things happen for you and to show you how to make it happen. we're the bridge. So we're the short-term services for you to get you to long-term support. So we have lists of contacts to be able to share with those in the community based on what it is that they may need at that time to get them the long-term services. And that's important because I think a lot what happens is people get afraid, people are jaded. They're so used to saying that, oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, it's this and that. Well, we can only give you what we give you and hope that you trust the process. But that's the big piece. It is a process. It doesn't happen with one phone call, with
Mhm.
two phone calls based on whatever the situation is. It's all about follow up. And if that doesn't work, then you go to the next piece. Talking with you, coming on, my phone didn't work. Everything cut out. We had to come in and now we're on the laptop and it's working.
Right. And
So we just have to continue to, and we're out there all the time because we're always gaining new knowledge on what's new and what could fit the community that we work with. We work with seniors, we work with veterans, single mothers, the LGBTQ community, and then with general population. It doesn't, even though we're a team of people of color, it doesn't matter. We're blessed that we have a young lady on our team that's African American, but she's bilingual. So we're able to go into the Latino communities. And if it's something else, we do have a young lady that works with us. If we have been told that we're going to be with a large group that may be hearing impaired. So we have a person that works with us that can do sign language. So we're pretty unique in that way that we could bring those services to you and try to fulfill what it is, what your need is at that particular time. And then just to help you through.
Engagement, inclusion,
Yes.
expansion,
Yes.
being there. So are there numbers that people can call when they're part of the network, when they need things like on the moment? Is there like a 1-800 number? Other than the events that you hold, how can people get in touch with your organization other than the number? And I do have that number that you provided in information. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we asked them to give us a call, and we try to link them as soon as possible based on what that need is. So once they call us, they say, you know what? Like yesterday, I was working with a young man, and his big issue was trying to get diapers. He's a new father, trying to get diapers for his baby. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at an event with this group, and it's called Love Bug. Love Bug had diapers and supplies and strollers for babies up to the ceiling. So I gave him that number. I'm hoping that he followed through to be able to get those supplies. You just fill out the paperwork and they give it to you. There's no cost. We don't charge anything at all for the work that we do in the community, because what we do is we have to remind ourselves we are the people we serve. We're no different.
That's right. Because just as we're discussing the health disparities that we experience, whether it's ourselves or someone that we're close to, these are things that you provide service better because now you're intimately, registering from another place. It's not just work you go to do to get paid for. Yeah, not that people who don't have illnesses don't serve well, but it does give you another greater level of sensitivity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm really careful about the people that I vet to come on board to work with us. Because remember, we're a volunteer group. No one's receiving a big every 2 week salary. They are out there. People are, they're using their own transportation. People are working from their heart because something about Peer Plus is special to them.
I think so special as you and they're
Okay,
bouncing off of your energy because you
I
just
think so.
well,
I
let
think
me
so.
just
I'll take that.
acknowledge a few things that are being said here. First of all, Lawrence Lenoir said she does a great job helping many people improve the quality of their lives. And then Bill Morton said, good morning. And Vieta Robinson says that Grand Rising Queens, great conversations on options to improve and heal our bodies. I'll help with prevention today on health and well-being with Vieta. Meditation is key. And then Delise is in and she says, hey, my two favorite ladies. I like being included in that bunch, Delise. Yeah. So people are speaking to you. There's so much to talk about, and I want you to always want to come back, share more. I want to talk more about
Oh,
your event
absolutely.
as we come to the end of the close of this hour. Things have gone by
Sure.
quicker than I expected. Talk about this event. Who's welcome to come? What do you anticipate coming out of this event? All of that. And I already put your email into the chat so people can have it, but I'll also put the information in that you shared
Okay.
with us. So I'm going to give you the screen.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for this opportunity. Sunday, June 7th, in partnership with Nights Out in the Park and with the Columbus Park Refectory, we're hosting National Cancer Survivors Day. National Cancer Survivors Day is celebrating the 39th year anniversary. This is celebrated all around the country. This is Peer Plus. This is our 8th year participating in this particular event. And we're venturing out to the west side of Chicago because we want to expand what it is that we do and create more partnerships. This event is free and open to the community. We want the community to come out and receive the resources, enjoy we have a game truck, we have a food truck, but there's some other information that's going to be there too. There's going to be screening. We're going to have, for those that are interested and want to know more about the colon, we will have the inflatable colon that is there. And then on the fun side, we have Phaedra, who's a belly dancer, who's going to give a little lesson and just bring some fun. And we have Rico, the Michael Jackson impersonator. And then we have a variety of vendors, so you'll get a chance to interact with those vendors and gain some resources, for yourself or for your family. Now, it is free and open to the public, but we are hosting a VIP reception for our sponsors and for anyone else that would like to have a ticket and to join us in that VIP reception. It's not going to be such a heavy event. It's always been heavy over the years where there's a lot of talk, about health disparities and that. We get that. But I think a lot of people like myself, we need a break. We need to be able to let our shoulders down just for a little bit, just to have some good laughter, have a nice bite of food, and just enjoy. And we just signed on the 40 plus Double Dutch group. So we're really, really excited about that. I've seen them on the news several times. So we're asking everyone to come out and come comfortable, come to enjoy. It's not like your average gala where you're in your ball gowns. And it's on a Sunday, so people will come, dressed, from church, feel free, but come to relax and just to enjoy and meet some people and just to say thank you for those that are surviving, just to say thank you and thriving because it's a hard journey. As we're talking, someone is receiving a diagnosis right now. Someone has received a diagnosis and don't know what to do.
Wow.
So we want to relieve them of that just for a little while.
Well, Phyllis, I just want to thank you so much for coming on with me this hour and sharing your work and your passion and what you seem to love more than most. And that is care, information, resources, education, all these things that are, and training too. So you're such a valuable asset And I look forward to having you back on Coffee Break. I look forward to being with you on the 7th, Sunday, at the Columbus Park Refectory. I'm looking forward to that and learning more about you and us becoming more immersed and doing whatever I can to support you and what you do.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, and just to have the conversation means a lot. Someone that's been engaging, in the chat boxes like that. Thank you all. We appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Well, we're going to close out here. Phyllis, you have a great day. I'll talk back
You
with
as
you.
well. Okay, enjoy your weekend. Okay,
Yes.
bye.
Well, folks, that's it. It's a wrap. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon. This is Senabella with Coffee Break Live.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.